Welcome to It Happened in Grand Prairie, Texas. We're just so pleased that you're in our viewing audience. This is our history tape number 625, and we are very honored today. We do have His Honor on the set today, and we're so pleased to bring to you the Honorable Ron Jensen, member of the City Council, who also has many other things that we're going to talk about today as we do this very special history salute to Ron Jensen and his family. Welcome to the set, young man.
Thank you, Miss Ruthie.
Oh, we're so glad to have you with us,
Good
Mr.
to be
Ron.
here.
Yes. Now, Ron Jensen, very popular in town, has a district, a whole territory of Grand Prairie, Texas that you are really responsible for, and you are so exciting in your taking care of that district, in that it is probably the fastest growing district in the city of Grand Prairie, Texas. But we're not going to talk about that entirely. First of all, we want to talk about the real Ron Jensen.
All right.
All right. Tell us a little bit about the real Ron Jensen's family. I'd like for you to name your parents.
Mm-hmm.
I would like for you to name your siblings, and then you come back to me, because I'm going to ask you a little bit more about where Ron Jensen attended school from the very beginning. So tell me a little bit about your early history with your parents.
Sure. My mom and dad, Brother Jensen, D.C. Jensen, pastor here locally in church. I was born in Jacksonville, Texas, while he was at the seminary out there.
Mm-hmm.
My mom, Viola Van Jensen, passed away a few years ago in June.
Mm-hmm.
Dad's 89, fixing to be 90 next year, living with my sister over in Arlington. But we moved from Jacksonville to Talco, Texas, to Sulphur Springs, to Shreveport. Moved here in 1963. He came here to pastor 8th Street Baptist Church.
Mm-hmm.
Some good dear friends of ours that were with him at Talco, Texas, the Burlesons, were at 8th Street and knew my dad and had him come in view of a call, and we came here, and I graduated with one of their daughters, Kathy. Rebecca graduated with one of their other daughters, Cindy. And so that's why we moved here to Grand Prairie in '63. Dad pastored there till '69 and then went into full-time evangelistic work, which was nice for me because that means we got to stay here.
Yeah.
Usually he moved around every 5 years or so, so got to stay here. And I have one sister, Vicki, who lives over in Arlington. That's where my dad's living now. They built a little apartment in the garage. Her husband, Tom, works for the school district here in town, fixing to retire this coming January or February, and she has 2 kids. Rebecca and I, we've been married 37 years this December, have 3 kids, Eric, Jennifer, and Nicole. Eric is married to Renee, and they have 2 children, our 2 grandchildren, Hannah and Jackson. Jennifer is married to Stan Brown, and she has another one of our granddaughters, Victoria Heffington, and then our Nicole, our baby, lives in Arlington, is not married right now, and so we're all close, doing quite well.
Now, that is a spectacular presentation of the real Ron Jensen in just a little bit here and a little bit there. Now, if we wanted to know a little bit more about Ron Jensen, I would like for you to know that I had the honor of doing a television interview with both of your parents.
I remember that.
Yes, yes. And then I had the honor of doing your mom by herself at one time on an interview, and it was very exciting because, you know, she was a stem winder, wasn't she?
She was quite a lady. Anybody who ever saw her speak, she was quite an entertainer.
Yes.
So I appreciate you saying that, and my dad, when he sees this, will enjoy that too.
Yes. Well, together they were one of the sharpest teams, and in their field, and they were in high demand.
They were. They traveled quite a bit. Dad bought a motorhome. They bought a motorhome, so they would go to sites, and Dad would preach, give a seminar, and Mom was always asked to make a presentation to the WMU. They were in the BMA, Baptist Missionary Association, and traveled all over mainly Louisiana, Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas, for quite some time.
How did you grab being a preacher's son when you were younger?
Well,
Was that a lot of pressure?
Mom and Dad, it wasn't a lot of pressure because of the way Mom and Dad handled it.
Good.
I never felt pressure. Growing up, it was just routine that we went to church every Sunday night, every Wednesday night. That's where my friends were. Had very close friends, and mainly back in Shreveport. That's my earliest remembrance of my good friends. I'd go home. We didn't live close to the church. I'd go home with one of them on the Sunday afternoon and nearly every Sunday. So you had real good friends. And when we moved here, I had very good friends at church. We did a lot of running around together. So it was a group thing, and I never felt pressure. And they from them, always support from them.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yes, they did a great job.
That was a praise for both of them and for your entire family. Are you the number one child in the family?
No, Vicki, my sister's the first.
Good, firstborn. Firstborn.
Yeah. I don't want to say she's older. She wasn't like
Oh
that,
no,
but she was the first.
Oh,
she was the first.
You would be in really bad trouble.
That's right.
Yes, that is wonderful. Now, in schools here in Grand Prairie, Texas, when you came here, you came to what school to begin your schooling career in Grand Prairie?
Lee.
Came to Lee Middle?
Yes, we lived Lee Junior High.
Okay.
Then, of course, and we lived right across the street from the park. The 8th Street Baptist had a parsonage right next door, and I'd walk right across the field there.
Real easy.
Very easy. I spent nearly every night at the rec center there. Back then it was called Crockett Recreation. I was Charlie Taylor. I played basketball there. Had a good set of friends there. Just enjoyed growing up there. And then I went on to Grand Prairie High. Graduated from Grand Prairie High in '69. That was the only. That was the last year we only had one graduating class in town. The next year, South had a graduating class and Grand Prairie High. So,
who was your most favorite instructor at Lee Middle School?
Coach Baker.
Coach Baker.
Still see him around town.
You do?
Had him in science.
He was good.
Oh.
Stimulating.
Well, just a good man.
Yes.
Had some good coaches then. Coach Carter. Coach Herschel Eastridge, Coach Brown.
Did you have a favorite subject in Lee?
No.
You hadn't developed any of that yet?
No, I don't think I ever had a favorite subject. My favorite thing was just to get through.
Just to get through. Well, when you got to Grand Prairie High School as a freshman, what'd you think about the campus?
Well, we didn't go to Grand Prairie High as freshmen then. Sophomore was my first year.
Sophomore, your first year.
It was a big year for those of us growing up at that time. It was first year of integration, my sophomore year, and it was it actually went very smoothly. But I don't remember much about my sophomore and junior years as much as I do my senior year.
Let's talk about your senior year.
We had a great graduating class. Just a lot of fun. A lot of us ran around together. I was on the basketball team. Became real good friends with Kirk London. He was on the team with me. Some underclassmen, Phil Bailey, Larry Liner, Bill Dawson, Paul May. We just had a, when you're on a team together.
You bond with them.
You do.
Yes, you do.
I mean, you can't let your team down.
That's
it. And we weren't that good of a team, but we were our bad team. It was us.
All right.
And had a great time. And again, had lots of good friends. That was a good year. Enjoyed that year.
Your favorite teacher at Grand Prairie High School?
Mrs. Ware.
Miss
Mrs. Ware English.
Oh, she was good.
Because she let me out. No, she was great.
She helped you over the humps.
Yeah, Miss Carletti.
Yes.
Earl Tom Keel. He was a lot of fun. One of my favorite. The other thing that was special about my senior year back then, they had TAs, and Eddie Cox and I were TAs for him. The sophomore girls choir section, and so back then you could leave campus. Well, Eddie and I would go to the donut shop, Roofs, I think, and have donuts.
Oh yes, of course.
During the second
place
period
downtown, yes.
And come back, and Eddie and I and Debbie are still friends. They're back in the States now. He was a missionary over in France and Germany for quite some time, but he's back now. So that was a good year.
That was a good year.
I'll never forget this. People want to get out of school so fast. And my mama told me early on, she said, don't be anxious to start to work, because once you start to work, you'll never quit.
That's it.
And I remember my freshman year of college almost wishing I was back in high school, because it changes. Things change. Your friends are gone, scattered.
And now we haven't gotten to the point there of graduation. Graduating from there, did you do anything in the summer before you went to college?
Well, worked.
You worked. That's
yeah,
good.
I didn't
That's good.
go anywhere. Worked, and that's of course
good.
that's when I started working for the company that led me to where I'm at now. I wasn't working for Control Products at that time, but I was working for Rayco, which
was a part of it.
It was. They weren't together at that time, but they were adjacent to one another. And the two owners, Ray Wallace Sr. and Mr. Hanks, were very good friends, and so that's what kind of got me into. That's how I met Mr. Hanks, was through my work at Rayco.
That's wonderful. Now, that's one of the reasons we're here, because you are now the president of a corporation. You're the president of the Alumni Association of Grand Prairie High School. You've been the president of Rotary. You've been the president of so many things, and have had such a wonderful success. You were recently singled out with a couple of other people at the University of Texas at Arlington and honored. You want to tell us about that?
Well, it was a complete surprise to me. I went to, let's do a little quick history. I went to North Texas my first semester, and then was driving home every Wednesday night to play basketball at the rec center, and coming home every weekend. So I decided, well, why not just stay home? And so I went back to UTA and graduated from UTA
in '73.
In '73, and
that was a good year.
That was a good year. It was so it was just 3.5 years, and at that time I was a psychology major. Why psychology? All of us that graduated 69, 70, late 60s, you'd have to be growing up in that era. The Vietnam War was going on.
Yes.
It wasn't getting the support that we give our troops now, and I would have gone to Nam if drafted, but I didn't want to go. And if I was going to go, I was going to go with a degree. And so you had to graduate on time. There were 5-year seniors, 6-year seniors, so
yes.
I had my degree plan in psychology and wanted to change it to business middle of my junior year, but that would have extended me another year.
Yes.
And there are certain events we all remember back in that day. I was at the Baptist Student Union building in North Texas when I got my lottery number for the draft. It was in the 70s.
Yes.
Everybody in the bottom third was going to go, so
Yeah.
I had to stay in school, get my degree. If I'd changed my degree, it would have extended another year, and I probably would have got drafted. So, however, the psychology degree did help me in business, and so I don't mind now that I stayed with it and got my psychology degree. But the Alumni Award was for nothing that I did while I was at UTA.
No.
I barely got out. I was
That's
so
all right.
glad I got out. But somebody turned my name in.
Because you were a success in business, and you didn't have a business degree. You had psychology, and it melded.
Right, it did meld, and somebody wrote some nice things about me, and I was nominated as one of the distinguished alumni. And I've received a lot of awards that I probably shouldn't have, but I learned a long time ago. My mama told me never look a gift horse in the mouth.
That's it.
Because if somebody wants to give you something,
be a gracious receiver.
Because it hurts them if you don't accept it.
Yes.
And so I accepted it with humility, and had a great night. The whole family was there, and we had a great night that night.
Now, the surprise that I've had is that in high school, you were an athlete and really just fairly successful, depending on your team, but your favorite teachers did not happen to be mentioned in your dissertation here, that a coach or someone else had a lot of influence on your life. You had an English teacher. Oh, you had
Earl Tom.
and in a different position in all of their interests, and I thought that was very unusual.
Well, those that grew up back then, everybody who had Miss Ware loved her.
Yes.
I mean, my goodness. And Earl Tom was just, if
Perfect.
you were in choir then, I mean, it was just it was a great time. The capers, it was a lot of fun. It was a good time. Now, I have no complaints now. I'm blessed.
Yes, you are.
But I look back, and that was a good time too.
Yes, it was. Well, after college, and you continued on at Rayco until the change, and you found Mr. Hanks, and now that was a blessing to you.
Well, that's kind of an interesting blessing. I was not out of college. Rebecca and I were married. I met Rebecca the summer of '71. We married that. I met her in June, July '71. We married that December '71. And then around in '72, I was working for Tom Ferguson, who you know,
Oh, yes.
is a good friend of mine, works for me now.
Yes.
And I said, Tom, I was working at Rayco, and I said, Tom, I like you, I like the company, and I'd like to stay here. But at that time, I was running a machine for him, but I don't want to be a machinist. And he was very honest with me. He said, you're somebody we'd like to keep, but there's not a place for you here. Ray Sr. has his own family, Rodney, Ray, Robbie, Randy, and they all will probably go to college and come back to work here.
Yes.
But Mr. Hanks just bought a company up in Wewoke, Oklahoma, and I had only vaguely been introduced to Mr. Hanks, knew who he was because he was in the adjacent building. And Tom said, Ray and I will introduce you to Mr. Hanks and ask him to give you an interview because he's looking for somebody. So that began the journey. I went next door, interviewed with Mr. Hanks. He tells the story that when he asked me what I wanted to be, that I wanted his job, is what he said. Well,
And that's probably what you
I don't know if I had that
inferred.
much guts back then.
But you inferred it.
I inferred it. Mr.
Yes.
Hanks was pretty intimidating back then, as he
Yes.
can be now.
As
You
he-
know him.
exactly.
And so he hired me, and that was in the, it was 2 weeks before we had Eric. Eric was born in '72, and I started to work for Mr. Hanks at Control Products Corporation in October of 1972. So it'd be 36, just been 36 years. And so
And you have worked your way all the way up the ladder very graciously to president. And isn't that exciting?
it is. It hasn't been, Mr. Hanks and I have had such a good relationship all those years. The president to me was just the title change.
Yes,
He and I have been partners. He has been very gracious to give me pretty much control of the company for years, whether I had the title of president or not. It was very gracious on his part to give me the title of president, because it does mean things when you're out traveling and all.
And when
But
you're doing business.
When you're doing business, but he still comes in every day. He's not going to retire. He's the, you know Mr. Hanks.
Oh, yeah.
He loves to get up. He has a routine. He comes into work every day. He loves being involved in the city and on the sports corp. And so we've got a very good situation. And now we own Rayco, and Tommy is our president down at Rayco, which is
Yes.
kind of neat. He was vice president back in the '70s there, and it's come around now to where he's back there. And one of Ray's sons, Randy Wallace, is a VP down there. My son Eric is a VP at Control Products. Janie's daughter Linda works in our front office. I mean, Wayne's daughter Linda,
Yes.
and Wayne's daughter Janie is vice president of our lighting group and travel agency down the street. So we've still got a lot of family involved, and
That's good.
yes, very good. We're in a nice situation. Have a lot of good employees. Couldn't do it without good employees.
All right, now we're going to keep off the business here for a minute. We're going to go back to Rebecca.
Yes.
Where did you meet Rebecca?
Well, my senior year of high school, I started running around with her brother Sammy. He graduated with me, which is probably good that I didn't meet him till my senior year. Rebecca was a few years older than Sammy and I, and you know, if you're a seventh grader,
Yes.
or a sixth grader
You
running
wouldn't
around.
be seen with one of those older.
Well, she wouldn't have been seen with me because I
no,
was one of those kids that probably bugged her. That
Yeah.
Well, I show up senior year running around with him, and she wasn't home at the time. So I remember very vividly. I'm picking up Sammy after his mom and dad moved to Ernie Lane out south, and I'm driving out there to pick him up in 1971, and some gorgeous, attractive, curly-headed woman gets out of her car and walks in, and I said, "Who's that?" And she said, "That's my older sister, Rebecca." I said, "Becky." And I said, "Well, my goodness."
Yes.
So I had a motorcycle at the time. She won't let me have one now, but I had one then, and took her for a ride on it. We started dating that June, didn't date anybody else after that, and got married that December. Maybe foolishly. I mean, we'd only known each other 6 months. I wasn't even out of school, but we were in love, and
That's important.
that's important. And then we
And
got
she
married
is-
that December.
And she is a beautiful, beautiful lady. You are a lucky
I am very lucky.
rascal.
But, the thing about Rebecca, you'd have to be on her. She is such a mother and such a grandmother.
Yes.
I can't imagine anybody being a better mother. I mean, she's a terrific wife, but I can't imagine anybody being a better mother or a better grandmother. I'm very fortunate.
Yes, you are. You really are. Now, all of this business has brought you into being president of Rotary. How have you enjoyed your community service other than your city council seat that you came to in 2002?
Well, let's talk about Mr. Hanks. We didn't sell anything to the general public. We're in the aircraft business now. Of course, we have a travel agency and stuff, but our big business is selling to military worldwide. But Mr. Hanks, from day one, always felt like we ought to be involved in the community. Started out with his wife, Virginia Hanks. She served on the YMCA board
Yes.
back then. So he's always led by example that we should be involved in the community. And I'll never forget what got me started in community was John Thorne called me, and everybody in town respected John Thorne at that time.
Exactly.
And I've told his children this, especially Jody, here recently, that he was the one that called me and wanted me to be on the Y board, and hence started my involvement in the community. It's hard to say no to people when you're asked to serve. And so I was the chairman of the board there, ran some fund drives. Then I was asked to be in Rotary. So I joined Rotary. I love our Rotary Club. Was asked to be the secretary treasurer. Did that a couple of years. Then on to the presidency. Just different things. When I of course have had to say no to some things, but when you love your community and the people involved, it's sometimes difficult, as you know, to say no to things.
Yes, it is.
And so I've been blessed to be asked to serve in many things, and have enjoyed it.
Yes.
And Rebecca has supported me in it.
And it goes with your psychology degree in a very wonderful way. You're putting people together that would never have thought that they would be working on a team. And I just think that's outstanding. But the most important thing, when you were elected to the council, you had the opportunity to be on many committees, but you are selected to be on some of the most important committees on the city council and the structure that we have there. What is your favorite job on the city council other than your district? What your contribution to the committees that the mayor appoints and selects you to be the leader for the city in that area?
I would have to say the Finance and Government Committee. Councilmember Swafford, who has been a good friend of mine for years, and I truly respect, is the chairman of that committee, and he does a great job with his banking background.
Yes.
And I have to say that I think that's one of the most important positions that Mayor England has allowed me the opportunity to serve.
Yes.
And I think Jim's perfect for the position of chair because, as I said, he's into the nuts and bolts of it. anybody who knows me knows that I'm more of a broad brush person. I have people at work that handle the day-to-day stuff. I'm more of the overall direction, philosophy, things like that, and that's what I kind of bring, I think, to the Finance Committee. And Jim is more of the down to the.
He's tough.
Oh, he is. I really enjoy working with Jim,
and
now Councilmember Sala's on it with us. I must say, the last year and a half, being on the Regional Transportation Council, the RTC has been quite involved. The first year to 2 years I was on it, every vote was 40-0, 40-0, 40-0. Yeah. Well, then we get into this CDAs and whether we're going to have this, private firms bid on the tolls, moving 161 along. It's been 17-23, 17-14, 23. It's been quite interesting. So it has been a bigger responsibility the RTC has recently than
any other assignment.
Than any other assignment. But it's kind of that's been very interesting. Meeting once a month with some of the transportation problems we have locally. It's been quite interesting.
Now, we have 2 minutes left on our interview.
Boy, this has gone fast.
Hadn't it gone fast?
You're super.
When we're having fun?
Yes.
Well, I would like for you to look out into your camera, and I would like for you to just, in general terms, thank everyone for helping you become so famous in Grand Prairie that the college next door in Arlington salutes a young man, and I want you to hold up this wonderful, wonderful award that you received as an outstanding member of the alumni, and especially since you were in the class of 1973.
1973. Well, I'm blessed. You don't get to a place in business like this or even leadership roles without a lot of people that have a lot of confidence in you. And fortunately, I'm surrounded by people that love me, have confidence in me, and think I can do things.
Yes.
My wife thinks I can do anything.
Good job.
And she pretty well gets me to try to do anything. So I'm just very blessed. The people in my district have blessed me with continuing to support me and send me back to council. Right now, I love being on the council. Miss Ruthie, you know this. We have a good group. We're making good progress. We have a great staff. And if I didn't love it, I wouldn't be doing it.
Let's hold that up. We want to say salute.
Well, it's very nice.
That is very nice.
And see, did you know that that's the color of it? Was
yes,
going to be the,
yes,
you did. You're so sweet. And
appreciate you very much.
Well, I appreciate you doing this for me.
I want to thank you. I want to thank your parents. I want to thank your dad that's still with us.
He'll be seeing this.
He'll be seeing this. And I want to thank Rebecca for being such a genteel lady representing her family too. And this was a salute to you, and maybe one of these days I'll get you together and do a salute to the family.
We'd be happy to, and
thank you.
Thank you very much.
And this is Ruthie Jackson reminding you that history is as we live and do, and that we document it correctly. And it's been a blessing to have the Honorable Ron Jensen as our very wonderful salute today. Thank you for watching our show.